We're going to jump right into this one, y'all. The Mazzaroth or the Zodiac, whatever one you want to call it. The Mazzaroth is basically the Hebrew word for basically the Zodiac. And Zodiac is basically the Greek word for Mazzaroth. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to teach you the agricultural version of this Mazzaroth or the Zodiac, whatever one you want to use. We're just gonna use Mazzaroth since it was created before the Zodiac. You know what I'm saying? Before they came up with the name, even Zodiac. So yeah, with this Mazzaroth, it's so many different ways that you could use this Mazzaroth. And it's basically, you know, like you could use it for seasons. Even the Bibles was trying to explain what you could do with this. So the Mazzaroth, basically, you could use it for seasons. You could use it for signs. You could use it for time. You could use it for a bunch of different things, at least 4 different things that you could use this for. And I'm going to show you one way that they used it agriculturally. Basically, if you didn't know the Mazzaroth, you either starved or froze to death. If you didn't know how to keep up with the seasons of all this. So we're going to jump right into it. You know what I'm saying? Because the Mazzaroth, the Zodiac, it's so many different groups of people that had used the Mazzaroth, the Zodiac. Like we got the Romanian people. They drew chariots and stuff for the constellations. They put chariots over it. The Ojibwa people, they use animals and spirits, and then I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Ojibwa. And then, you know, you got the Western, which is the Babylonian, the Mesopotamian, the Arab, the Egypt, the Greek. They all use, you know, like what we see now, you know. So let's jump into this. The beginning of the year, like if you looked at my last video, you'll learn that the New Year's don't start in the middle of January. It starts in spring, because spring is basically up. When spring happens up north, is basically the renewal of the planet. Don't it look like the beginning of the year when spring hit? So yeah, let's go. This start off with Aries. Aries is the first sign, which is when Aries hit, they use Aries and the lamb, because the lamb got this big old furry. It looked like it's this spring tree that got these white blossoms on it, kind of like the cherry blossom tree, but it's like all white, and they look just like a sheep. And you know what I'm saying? I could use all types of things to explain, but I'm just going to explain how they used it to survive. So when spring, Aries, when the sun is all about the sun, when the sun is in Aries, it's spring up north. This is only for up north. This is a northern hemisphere view. You could. It's all different ways that somebody, like, it's people down south that looked at it in a different way. North, south, west, east. You know, everybody got their own Mazzaroth or Zodiac to explain from what, like, basically their perspective of the stars. So yeah, we're gonna jump it off. Aries is when the sun come back over the equator, bringing the sun back to the northern hemisphere with the blossoms, you know. So that lets you know that spring is here when you see that. And then you got Taurus. Taurus is the season. The reason why they use the bull is because back in those days, they didn't have like all these machineries that we got right now to plow the fields and to get them ready to plant the seeds and all that. They didn't have any of that back then. So they used big animals like the bull, the big animals to pull this plow through the field so that they could start planting their seeds. Like I say, if you didn't know to plant your seeds in Taurus season, when it's time in Virgo season, which is because if you look at the Zodiac and the Mazzaroth, every season has a total opposite because we live in duality. So Aries, the opposite of Aries is Libra. You know what I'm saying? The opposite of Taurus is, you follow me? So what we doing is this. If you didn't know to plow your thing and put your seeds out there for Taurus, then when there's a harvest season in Virgo, you didn't have no food to harvest. So you might end up starving if you didn't know this. So then after Taurus is Gemini, and they use the twins, the Gemini twins, because that's when you notice all the animals start having kids and multiplying and all that. So you start seeing animals running around, a bunch of insects starting to show up. This is around that time when things on the planet start to multiply. So that's when they use that. So those three, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, they are all only in spring. Those are spring constellations. So then we move on to Cancer. Cancer is when the sun stop moving for 3 days, because it's at the highest point in the northern hemisphere that it could reach. And for 3 days, it doesn't move. It basically seems like it's walking across the sky. That's why they use the crab, because it's actually the Tropic of Cancer. It's when it hit the Tropic of Cancer, it don't move no more. Only thing it could do is come back down. So they use the crab because how the crab will look like it's walking down, when it's walking. It got, how the crab look. So they use the crab to represent how the sun seemed like it's walking across the sky for 3 days, because it only have that way to go before it start coming down out the sky, going back down south. So that's why they used it, and it's in the Tropic of Cancer. The next one is Leo. Leo got the hottest days of the year. It's the middle of summer. The summer is the sun is the king. Like, how they use the Leo because it's supposed to be the king of the jungle. So they use Leo, the lion, for summer, because that's when the sun is at its hottest. Ain't no time of the year is hotter than Leo season, because Leo season is the summer. So that's why they use the king, because the sun is the king. It's its hottest. It's at its hottest in Leo season. And then we got Virgo season. Virgo season is the harvest time for the northern hemisphere. They used the virgin because they felt like God would favor the virgins more if they went out in the fields and picked the harvest. Remember Taurus now. Taurus is when they planted these seeds. Virgo is when they harvest. So if you didn't have anything plowed and planted in Taurus, by the time Virgo season came, guess what? You didn't have no food to pick for this year. So you might end up starving. So then, for the summer constellations are Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. These are only the summer ones. Now the sun is still moving. Now we enter Libra. Libra is the middle of the year, when the sun falls beneath the equator. You know how you got, it's an equinox, because the moonlight and the sunlight are at equal lengths at this time, just like Aries. It's an equinox. It's the spring equinox, and then you got the fall equinox, Libra. And the reason they use the scale for Libra, because Libra is the middle of the year. It's 6 months. So if you ever notice how Libra look, Libra got one scale up, like the right arm is up and the left arm is kind of like down. What that really means is that Libra is basically the sun is up 6 months. If you count these constellations, you'll notice that it's 6 different constellations, and that's the first 6 months of the year. Spring and summer is the first 6 months of the year. So the sun is up north for 6 months and is down south for 6 months. So when Libra hit, you know that the sun has fell beneath the equator again, and now, you know, it's time to start getting ready for winter. So now we got Scorpio. The reason they use the scorpion, because they use the scorpion because scorpions, with they sting, how quick they sting, and how quick you're affected by the poison, the venom, whatever that the scorpion has. They use the Scorpio because if you notice, this is around the time, the season of unhealthy weather and plagues. Because when Scorpio hit, it don't know if it want to be summer, spring, fall. They don't know what it want to be. So people usually get sick around this time, around Scorpio season, because of how the weather is so weird. So everybody is outside with no coats on, and it's, you know how it is. So they use the Scorpio to represent, you know, the unhealthy weather and the sickness people get around this time of year, because they not realizing that it is fall now and it's time to start covering up appropriately. So now we move on. We're going to move on to Sagittarius. Now Sagittarius is a man with an arrow. He's an archer. He's a person that, if you notice him, he got this arrow and he ready to shoot. The reason why they use the archer, the dude with the arrow, is because this is the season where it's time to start hunting. This is hunting season. That's why he got the arrow, because they didn't have guns and none of that stuff back then. The only thing they had was like arrows and stuff. So they used arrows to go hunting. And this is the season where you start preparing your furs and your clothing and all that, because if you didn't start preparing for this at this time, then you end up freezing to death. Because if you know how it is in the winter, if you ain't got the right winter coat, or you ain't got a winter coat and you trying to be outside, it's cold. Now imagine not having heat and all this stuff that we got today in today's world. Imagine you gotta hunt. Because if you don't hunt, you ain't gonna have no furs or nothing to, or food, extra food, and you end up freezing. And and winter is 3 different months. It's about 3 months of cold. That's a long time to not have a coat on outside, So yeah, they used the archer to represent, or to allow you to understand that it's time to go hunting. Now, Capricorn. Capricorn is when the sun is at its lowest point. Just like Cancer, the Tropic of Cancer, they got a Tropic of Capricorn, which is the lowest point in the southern hemisphere. This is the point when Capricorn hit. Capricorn allows you to understand that the sun is going to stop for 3 days. You know about the 3 days. It ain't going to stay in the same spot because it's at its lowest. So Capricorn season lets you know they use the goat, because the goats love to climb. So the goats get to climbing up, because the sun, after the 3 days of being at its lowest point, on the 25th, it moves 1 notch back up. Basically, that's why they use the goat, because it's finna climb back up and go back up north and bring the sun back to the northern hemisphere for Aries. Okay, now we got Aquarius, the water bearer. It's basically when the ice start melting and it start raining. It's like the raining seasons and all that. So that's when you start seeing the ice melting from the winters and all that. It's starting to warm back up because the sun is starting to come back up north. And then you got Pisces season. Pisces season, they use the fish because, you know, they wanted you to know that this is the time where the fish is starting to multiply and all that. It's like the best time to go fishing. So, this is the Mazzaroth, the Zodiac. If you don't know the seasons, or if you didn't know the seasons back then, you end up starving, or you end up freezing to death. And this was one of the ways that they used the Mazzaroth, the Zodiac. Till next time, love to all, and to all, spread the light.